So this is a video on making a quiz app for the BJC curriculum for the AP CSP test. So this is just a single page lab, but it has a lot of information in it. And the first thing up here, you're not actually doing anything. It really just wants you to understand that when you look at this compared to this, it makes a lot more sense for somebody to read this code here where it says, quiz item question with the answer. So you would probably assume, oh, this must be a question with the answer. If you look up here, you have, list, and then you have what is the computer science term for looping or repetition, and then you have another option here, but you might not know what these two things are, and then what the next thing is if you just kind of quickly glance at it. So if you're quickly going to glance at this or this one's more readable. It's more understandable. Let me just make this bigger. So this is what you would call an abstraction, because you're basically kind of making it less complicated, but you're hiding some of the code, what they say right here, which makes it easier to write, read, and debug. So the other thing is, instead of doing item 1 of, item 3 of the quiz, why don't you just do the question from the quiz or the answer from the quiz? So these are called abstract data types. If you were doing a text-based coding, this is what you would call a constructor. And it basically is making a data structure. And these two things would be called selectors, or selector functions, selector methods, or getter. You can even call them getter methods, because they're grabbing something. They're grabbing the data from your constructor. And a lot of times when you make a class in Java, or you make your variables private, so you need these types of selectors, I'll call them, to grab that data. You don't need to know any of that for this AP CSP test, but I just figured I'd throw that in there. So here we're going to make a quiz item block that's going to hold the question and the answer. We're going to make a block that is going to grab the question from that constructor and also grab the answer from the constructor. Then we're going to put it together into a quiz. We're going to set about 5 questions up, and then we're going to have it so that it will tell you if you get it right or wrong. And also I'm going to have it give a score at the end. So I will try and go as quickly as possible, but also try and explain everything. So all the blocks we're going to make right now are going to be operators and reporters. So we're going to do quiz item, comma, question, colon, percent question for the input, and then answer, colon, percent answer for that input. We are going to hold the question and the answer together in a list. So you're going to pop in a list. Oh, whoops, don't do that. Open up 2 spots. Question, you want to go first. Answer, you want to go second. And there is your first block. Then the next block is going to be also a reporter operator. And this is going to be question from quiz item, colon, percent item. Now, the item that's coming in is technically this list. So I'm going to have this block set up with a question and answer, and I want to be able to just grab the question from there. So we are intaking a list. And to change that, I just did it real quick, but I'll do it again. You single click this, click the arrow, and click on a list. This, if you don't do that step, this block will still work, but by doing that, if you notice right now, it's just a white space, but if I hit apply, you get the boxes that make it necessary to put in a list. So I can't type in anything. I have to input a list in order for this block to work. So it just kind of gets you used to declaring certain variable types, which you would have to do in another language. All right, so the question from this list is the first item. So you will need to put item 1 of and then drag that down. And the last block we're going to make is another operator reporter. We're going to do answer from quiz item, colon, percent item. Same steps. I'm going to change this to a list. And this is going to be item 2. Now, there is no 2. You could technically put last because we're only going to have 2 items. I don't like doing that in case, like, let's say you wanted to make a third spot in your list here and maybe you wanted to add point values or, you know, something else. So I'm just going to do 2, but for this lab, you really just need, you can do last. Okay, so we got 3 of these blocks made. Now let's go test them out, make sure they work. Okay, so I'm going to do, I know on the lab it's a computer science quiz. I used to be a math teacher, so I'm going to do some just really basic math. I didn't teach this kind of math, but I taught algebra. I'm not going to do that in here. So let's just do what is 5 times 6, and we'll put the answer here. You click it. You'll see it puts it in a list. When we do set it up in a quiz, it will make the list look a little bit nicer. You can always turn it into like a table view, which is what we're going to do. Whoops. If you two-finger right click or two-finger click, whatever, never mind. You'll see the table view when I pop up the quiz. And then to test if this works, if you drop that in there and click it, you get the question. If you drop it in here, you get the answer. Okay, so we're going to need those 2 when we're looping through our quiz. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to make a variable, and I'm going to call it math quiz. You do not have to make a math quiz. Some of my students made presidents, state capitals, silly quizzes, like, I don't know, any type of quiz you can make. So we have to set this math quiz. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can set it either to an empty list and then use the add, and you would basically like add quiz item. Or this other way I'm going to do is don't set it to an empty list. Set it with however many spots you want, and then just drop 5 of these or however many questions you want into these spots. And then I'll change the questions in a second. All right, so let's just say we're doing our 5 times tables. Do 5 times 7, 5 times 8, 9. Okay. So when you click it, here's your table view. You have your question, your answer. The easiest way to do this is to use a for each loop, because otherwise you have to get the for loop and use the I, and you have to do item of, and I will show you, you don't have to do any of that. So what we're going to do is for each item in math quiz, and I like to always do like a header thing, we are going to ask the question. So you're going to get an ask, then we got to get the question, and then so this variable right here, this item variable, is basically this whole row. So the item consists of a list that has a question and an answer. Remember that the question from the quiz item is getting item 1 of this whole thing. So we have to drop this there. Because if you did, if you put math quiz in here, it's going to get you the entire first row. So it gives me both things because behind this is saying item 1 of. So we really want item 1 of item 1. So the nice thing about the for each loop is I don't have to do this. Otherwise, I would have to use this block in addition to putting something in here, and it just gets a little bit abstract. So this loop I think is easier in this case, as long as you're not trying to modify anything in the list. All right, so we have ask question, then we need to check if the answer is right. So if answer equals answer from quiz and put that there, then we can say something. So congrats. That was correct. Or whatever you want to say. The wrong one, I'm actually going to say what the right answer was. You could also do like a repeat until in here if you wanted to keep asking them the question, but we're going to do it this way. I'll say incorrect. The right answer is, and then we'll just duplicate this. All right, so let's test it out. So I'll get that right. Let's get this wrong. Okay, then you go through. Now the only other thing that I added to this was a score. So make a variable, score, set score to 0. And then in here, we'll change score by 1. And I'm only going to do 1 because I do want to give a percentage at the end, but I'm just going to do 1 because I'll calculate the percentage. You know, I know each of these is worth 20 points out of 100, but if you wanted to add questions, then you have to change that. It'll be easier to just do it this way if you had wanted to change the number of questions you had. So at the end, we'll say what their score was. We'll do a join. Oh, jeez. Sorry. You scored. And then we're going to have to do divide by 100. Or sorry, not divide by 100. Sorry, multiply by 100. We're going to take the number that they got correct, which is the score, divide it by the length of the list. So that's how many questions there are. So length of math quiz times it by 100. And then if I want it, I'm going to put the percent sign here so it's easier for you to see it there. I'm going to drop this in the middle. And then let me just put for 1 second so it goes a little faster. 30. Just get this wrong. Okay, there you go. So that is it. If you have any questions, let me know. There goes the dogs again, right in time.